Human bones.
Hi. Welcome to another movie plot. Spoilers ahead.
10 minutes.
The movie begins on the Amazon River where a poacher radios for help as his boat is attacked by an unseen creature. He takes his revolver and flees to the top deck as it rips through the hull. The terrified man climbs the mast and without anywhere else left to go, he would rather die than let it get him. A short distance away, a lady named Terry Flores is directing a documentary about a long-lost Amazonian tribe. She has been hired by anthropologist Stephen Cale, who gets back from speaking to some local guides about finding their location. In the morning she tells cameraman and childhood friend Danny Rich that she doesn't mix business with pleasure.
Today's a good day.
The sleazy boat captain Mateo has been hired by Cale to take them upriver, and directs the group to go 50 kilometers out of their way for safety concerns.
Christ!
The stuck-up narrator Warren Westridge shows up late after having a delayed flight, and when meeting the production manager Denise Kalberg he demands she manage his bags to his room.
Manage my things.
Denise refuses his request and talks with boyfriend and sound engineer Gary Dixon. Before Cale and Danny have any time to catch up, Mateo announces their departure. They all head upriver while filming Warren's narration on the tribe's mystery. When Gary chats to Denise about the jungle making him horny, all of a sudden, a storm rolls in. Not long into the thick of it, they come across a stranded sailor that they pick up named Paul Cerrone, who is told by the group that they will take him to the next village, but Paul is just happy to be alive.
Thank the Lord!
When the storm clears up, he feeds the group some fresh caught fish, and tells them he began life as a priest but takes offense to being called a failed one. He is now a snake catcher selling them to the highest bidder, but doesn't use the word poacher. Paul says he has met the tribe and since they saved his life he will show them where. That night as everyone relaxes around the boat, Cale puts the moves on Terry, where he talks about fireflies making manly flashes and they kiss. Nearby a not-so-ordinary snake stalks a panther, before pouncing on the cat and constricting it, dragging its body away as it leaves an eyeball. Another day gone and an irritated Warren begins blaming hip-hop for his bad golf swing, before threatening to have Danny killed for $15. Paul announces their arrival at a totem pole in a fork on the river, and tells them the tribe worship giant snakes called anacondas as protectors. When he says that they go right and tells a story about the tribe's history, Cale calls him on his bullshit, having heard the tale before, so they go left. That night the two lovebirds leave the boat in order to record some jungle sounds, and naturally make some jungle sounds of their own. Suddenly they begin to get chased through the trees by something until coming up on Paul, who takes a shot at it and it's revealed to be just a boar. Cale announces that no one's to leave the boat at night, and Paul and Mateo turn the boar into a week's worth of food.
Ooh.
The next problem arises on the trip where a line wrapped itself around the propeller, and when Paul suggests he go in, Cale insists he's got it. Not long into the dive though, Cale begins freaking out, flailing about as the group drag him back onto the boat. They surmise he isn't breathing and pull a wasp out of his throat, which the skipper says is very poisonous. So the quick-thinking Paul grabs a pen and sticks it in his throat, allowing Cale to breathe and saving his life. Since the radio is out and they are desperate to return as quickly as they can, Paul once again suggests the route he did before, the same one Mateo avoided initially. Having no other option they take it, but soon become blocked by a wall protruding across the river. But the ever-ready Paul has a plan for this as well.
God's sake, blow the bloody thing.
He takes some dynamite he had in his bag and Gary and the two rig the wall for destruction. Returning to the boat having used way too much TNT, the wall explodes, raining logs and snakes down onto the crew. They realize Paul's true intentions behind going this way, being that it's infested with snakes and that's probably why it was walled off.
One of them babies.
And since they only have about a day of fuel left now, it's the only choice they have.
Pleasant surprise.
Not far up the stretch of river they come across the same capsized boat from the beginning, so Paul suggests he, Mateo and Danny search it for fuel, while something watches them from the water. When the three get on board the wreck, we see from a newspaper clipping that the poacher Mateo and Paul all work together to capture snakes. As they head back to their boat with supplies, Mateo begins to fall behind, running straight into a giant warrior anaconda that strikes him down, constricting his body as he tries to call for help. Danny goes back to look for Mateo, only finding his torch as the anaconda has had its fill and left. Returning to the boat, Paul states the obvious, and shows them just a taste of how big the snakes can grow.
Is snakes out there this big?
Saying that the poor Captain Mateo has been made a meal of. Hunting down a record-breaking green anaconda has been his primary objective, and he believes that he can capture it alive.
If it was me out there, I'd be dead.
Terry convinces the crew to spend the night there in hopes of Mateo's return, so Paul charms Gary into helping him hunt the snake.
$1 million, Gary.
The next morning when Mateo still hasn't come back, they decide to leave, with Warren at the helm. Out of nowhere, Paul shoots a monkey out of the tree and says they need bait. Having convinced Gary that capturing the snake on camera would make them rich, the two begin to argue with the rest of the crew. When that doesn't work, Paul just pulls a gun on them and takes over the ship with his new lackey Gary. Spending all night trawling for snakes with the monkey bait, they suddenly hit a snag, which reveals itself to the crew as the giant anaconda Paul has been looking for. Putting up a good fight with the creature, Danny eventually tries to mutiny Paul but is knocked away by the snake. It then breaks the line and spits the bait at Warren, before attempting to go at Terry. As Paul sends a crossbow bolt into the creature's mouth, it begins flailing around, knocking Denise off the deck and into the water. Gary goes in after her, but before her boyfriend can join her back on the boat, he is taken by the anaconda and slowly crushed in front of her. When Terry tries to shoot the snake off him, Paul stops her, needing the snake alive and letting Gary get eaten. As Denise mourns for her boyfriend, Paul says a little prayer for him, and begins running the ship with an iron fist, while the snake digests Gary below them. At night, Terry tries to seduce the new skipper to allow Danny to knock him out, but when he spots Danny and foils their plan, Warren blindsides him with his golf club. Terry's kind heart convinces them not to kill him though, as too many have died already, so they tie him to a pole on deck instead. Warren teaches Danny to drive the boat, and as soon as he does, the boat comes up on a waterfall and they get stuck on some rocks, requiring them to take cables to separate locations around the lagoon to winch them free.
Aren't you gonna pray?
Left alone on the boat, Denise approaches Paul with a knife. She is conflicted about whether to kill him, before he leaps up and wraps his legs around her throat, squeezing the life out of her like a snake would and dumping her in the river. Just then the creature returns, chasing Terry and Danny back to the boat until the brave Warren gets its attention in order to lure it away from them. He leads it up a waterfall, but it easily catches him. As he tries to jump off, it grabs him straight out of the air, wrapping him up just like all his co-workers. The heavy warrior snake's weight starts to pull tree roots from the ground, and the tree comes crashing down onto the boat. With Warren now dead and Cale still unconscious, the only two left wanting to kill the snake are Terry and Danny, but suddenly Danny gets grabbed just like all the others. This time Terry manages to get the rifle as the creature is distracted with Denise, and put one through the anaconda's head, finally killing it and releasing Danny. Mad at Terry for killing his warrior, Paul is about to shoot the pair before being stabbed in the back by a tranquilizer. Cale awoke but is quickly put back to sleep, as Paul is knocked off the boat with an elbow to the face. The waterfall is now put in reverse, as Terry and Danny head on to arrive at an abandoned station, and decide to search it for fuel. Finding plenty of barrels, they also find a snakeskin, and the reason for the place's desertion. In one swift move, Paul shows back up and captures the two. Tying them up and covering them with monkey plum juice to attract another predator, he goes atop a perch to wait. A second, even larger anaconda arrives, a queen measuring twice the size, grabbing her dinner and squeezing them tight. Paul leaps from his perch with rope and captures the queen in a net, tying it off to a pole while he tries knock it out with a dart. The massive creature easily breaks the pole from the wall, releasing itself from the net and giving the friends some relief. It lets go of the non-threats to go for the person attacking it, ripping the poacher from a ladder and constricting him, until finally his back breaks. She then cracks every bone in his body as Terry and Danny watch and slowly free themselves. Then swallows Paul whole. The queen splits the two up and chases Terry, as she unknowingly flees into its nest. Breaking through the side of the wall, the creature regurgitates Paul, where he gives Terry one last wink. The queen chases her into a smokestack where Danny finally catches up and pins it to the floor with a pickaxe, filling the stack room with fuel and lighting the snake up. The resulting explosion sends the burning queen flying out of the building and into the water by Terry. It continues to chase her on fire until eventually succumbing to the flames, but springs up through the floor for one last scare before Danny kills it for good. Cale wakes up at just the right time, and spots the tribe they came to find in the exact place Paul said they would be. And the movie ends. Anaconda is a 1997 adventure thriller film directed by Luis Llosa.
Yeah, well, today's a good day.
The film received mostly negative reviews but was a box office success, grossing $136 million worldwide against a $45 million budget.
I'm getting the hell back to LA.
Even with the CGI for the anacondas costing $100,000 per second. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.
You and who saw me?
Your mama's.